I was in the middle of presenting my quarterly results to the entire company when it happened. 400 employees watched on the video conference as Amber, the CEO's daughter and newly appointed chief operating officer, interrupted me without warning. She announced I was fired effective, immediately accusing me of performance issues and attitude problems. My screen froze on my shocked expression as colleagues sat in stunned silence. 7 years of dedication ended in 90 seconds of public humiliation that I never saw coming. The screen went black, and I sat frozen at my home desk, unable to process what had just happened. My hands trembled as I stared at the blank monitor. The silence felt deafening after the chaos of that moment. Then my phone started buzzing. Text after text flooded in from colleagues expressing shock, sympathy, and disbelief. Within an hour, I tried to log into my company email. Access denied. I grabbed my security badge from my bag, thinking I might need to go to the office to straighten this out, but I already knew it would be deactivated. My 7 years at Stellar Media Group had been erased in the time it took to drink a cup of coffee. At 2:30 that afternoon, an email arrived in my personal inbox from Human Resources. The subject line read, "Separation Agreement and Release." My severance package required my signature within 24 hours. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. 2 weeks of pay. That was it. 2 weeks for 7 years of service. I had given this company everything. I had worked late nights, sacrificed weekends, missed family events. I had built campaigns that won awards. I had brought in clients that generated millions in revenue, and they were offering me 2 weeks of pay. The agreement included a non-disparagement clause so restrictive I could barely breathe while reading it. I could not say anything negative about Stellar Media, its employees, its leadership, or its business practices. Ever. The non-compete agreement was even worse. I could not work in advertising or media in Illinois for 2 years. 2 years. In my industry, that might as well be forever. I pulled up my performance reviews, needing to see them in black and white. Excellent. Exceeds expectations. Outstanding leadership. Innovative thinking. Strategic vision. Every review for 7 years painted the same picture. There had been no warnings, no performance improvement plans, no documented issues of any kind. Just this morning, I had presented numbers showing my department had delivered the best quarterly results in company history. 3 major accounts worth over $2 million. And now I was fired for performance issues. It made no sense. I called Sarah, another director at the company, and one of my closest friends. She answered on the first ring. "Belle, oh my God, are you okay? I cannot believe what just happened." "I need to understand this, Sarah. Why would Amber do this? What did I do wrong?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was careful, measured. "Belle, you really do not know." "Know what?" "Amber has had it out for you for months, ever since the holiday party." "The holiday party? That had been 6 months ago. I searched my memory for anything significant." "What about the holiday party?" "Justin," Sarah said quietly. "Amber's fiancé." Then it hit me. Justin had cornered me near the bar that night. He had been drinking and became overly familiar, putting his hand on my lower back, leaning in too close. He asked me to dance, then suggested we go somewhere quieter. I had politely but firmly declined and walked away. I had not thought much about it afterward. These things happened at office parties. You handled them and moved on. "He told Amber that you pursued him," Sarah continued. "He told her you came on to him and that he had to reject you. He completely lied, Belle. But Amber believed him. She has been systematically undermining you ever since." My stomach dropped. A lie. This entire nightmare stemmed from a lie told by an insecure man to cover his own inappropriate behavior. "Sarah, I need you to know that is not what happened." "I know, Belle. I believe you. But Amber does not, and her father owns the company." I thanked Sarah and ended the call. I sat in my living room as the afternoon light faded, trying to decide what to do. The severance agreement sat on my laptop screen, waiting for my electronic signature. 2 weeks of pay to sign away my rights and accept blame for something I had not done. I could not do it. I drafted an email to Human Resources requesting a meeting to discuss my termination. I documented everything I could remember about my performance, my projects, my contributions to the company. I attached copies of my reviews. I sent it before I could second-guess myself. Then I looked up employment lawyers in Chicago. The next morning I woke to my phone ringing. It was Sarah again. "Belle, have you seen it?" "Seen what?" "The video. Someone recorded the meeting yesterday and posted it online. It is going viral." I opened social media with a sense of dread. There it was. The video of my firing had been viewed over 50,000 times already. The comments section was a battlefield. Some people expressed sympathy. Others speculated about what I must have done to deserve such a public termination. The hashtags were brutal workplace bullying, toxic boss, corporate humiliation. But as I watched the video, something felt wrong. It had been edited. The part where I presented my excellent quarterly results had been cut out entirely. The video started with Amber interrupting me and accusing me of poor performance. It made it look like I had been failing at my job and finally got called out for it. 2 hours later, Stellar Media Group released an official statement on their social media accounts. Yesterday, Stellar Media Group made the difficult decision to terminate the employment of Belle Harrison, former marketing director, due to serious performance failures and violation of company policies. This decision was made after careful consideration and documentation of ongoing issues. We wish Ms. Harrison well in her future endeavors. Performance failures. Violation of company policies. None of it was true. But now it was published for the world to see attached to my name forever. I realized with growing horror that Amber had orchestrated this entire thing. She had leaked the video herself, edited to make me look bad. She had prepared the company's statement in advance. She had controlled the narrative before I even had a chance to tell my side. My phone rang. It was Thomas Crawford, the employment lawyer I had contacted. He had seen the video and the statement. He wanted to meet immediately. Thomas Crawford's office was in a high-rise building downtown. He was in his mid-50s with silver hair and a calm, methodical way of speaking that immediately put me at ease. He reviewed my documentation for over an hour while I sat across from his desk drinking terrible coffee and trying not to cry. "You have a strong case," he finally said. "Wrongful termination, defamation, possibly retaliation. The public nature of your firing strengthens your position. And the fact that you have documentation showing excellent performance makes their claims of poor performance demonstrably false. So, what do we do?" "We file suit. But Belle, I need to be honest with you. This will get ugly. Stellar has resources. They will fight hard. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about my bank account, my career, my reputation already being destroyed online. What choice did I have? "I am prepared." Over the next 2 days, I decided to fight back publicly. If Amber could control the narrative, so could I. I drafted a detailed post explaining my side of the story. I included screenshots of my performance reviews with confidential information redacted. I posted emails from clients praising my work. I explained that I had been fired without cause or warning despite 7 years of excellent service. I posted it at 9 in the morning. By noon, it had been shared over 2,000 times. People were commenting with their own stories of workplace injustice. Media outlets were starting to pick up the story. For a brief moment, I felt like maybe I could win this fight. Then Amber struck back. By 3 that afternoon, Stellar Media's legal team had issued a cease and desist letter. They claimed I was violating my non-disclosure agreement by posting company information. They threatened to sue me for breach of contract and defamation. Their PR team released a new statement providing quotes from anonymous sources who claimed I had been difficult to work with, had missed deadlines, and had created a hostile work environment. Thomas called me within the hour. "Belle, you need to take down those posts. Now. If you do not, they will absolutely sue you, and they will have grounds." But I redacted everything confidential. I was careful. "It does not matter. The agreement you signed when you were hired was very broad. They can argue that any discussion of your employment violates it. Take it down." I took it down, feeling defeated. My brief moment of fighting back had lasted less than 6 hours. I started applying for jobs the next day. I had bills to pay, and my savings would not last forever. I had 3 interviews lined up within a week at competing firms in Chicago. Small victories. The first interview was at Maven Creative, a boutique agency I had always admired. The hiring manager, a woman named Lauren, was impressed with my portfolio. We talked for over an hour about campaign strategy and client relations. As I left, Lauren told me I was her top candidate. She would be in touch within a few days. 4 days later, I received a form rejection email. No explanation, no feedback, just thanks for your interest. The second interview was at Brightside Marketing. Again, it went brilliantly. The creative director seemed excited about bringing me on. He mentioned salary ranges that would actually help me rebuild my life. 2 days later, they emailed to say they were going in a different direction. The third interview at Apex Media was canceled the day before. Budget constraints, they claimed. I sat in my apartment trying to understand what was happening. These were not normal rejections. Something was wrong. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. Belle, this is Daniel Chen. Daniel had worked at Stellar for years before moving to Maven Creative 6 months ago. We had not been particularly close, but we had always been friendly. Daniel, hi. How are you? I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet? Not over the phone. We met at a coffee shop far from downtown the next morning. Daniel looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. What is going on? I asked. I need to tell you something, but if anyone finds out I told you, I will lose my job. Okay. Amber called Lauren at Maven personally. She told her you were litigious, unstable, and that you had stolen company secrets before leaving. She told Lauren that hiring you would be a huge mistake and a potential legal liability. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. She what? She is calling companies where you are interviewing. She is using her father's connections in the industry. Richard knows everyone in Chicago advertising. Amber is systematically destroying your reputation before you can even get in the door. I felt sick. It was not enough that Amber had fired me. It was not enough that she had publicly humiliated me. Now she was ensuring I could never work again. Daniel, thank you for telling me. I know you are risking a lot. Belle, it is worse than you think. The word is out. Everyone knows Amber is doing this, but no one will cross her. Her father has too much power. You are effectively blacklisted. After Daniel left, I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours staring at nothing. The non-compete clause meant I could not work in advertising in Illinois for 2 years, but Amber was making sure I could not work anywhere. My savings would last maybe 3 months. Then what? I was trapped. 2 months passed like a slow-motion nightmare. I watched my savings account dwindle with each passing week. Rent, utilities, groceries, my phone bill. The numbers got smaller and smaller. I applied for jobs outside of advertising. Administrative positions, customer service, anything. But every potential employer searched my name online and found the viral video, found the accusations, found the controversy. No one wanted to hire the woman who had been publicly fired and was now suing her former employer. I finally swallowed my pride and took a part-time job at a department store in a shopping mall. 20 hours a week at $15 an hour. It was not enough to live on, but it was something. I folded sweaters, helped customers find their sizes, and smiled until my face hurt. My coworkers were nice, mostly college students working their way through school. They had no idea that 3 months ago I had been a director at a major advertising firm managing a team of 12 people and a 7-figure budget. My mental health deteriorated. I stopped sleeping through the night. Anxiety attacks hit me at random moments. I would be folding clothes, and suddenly my heart would race, my hands would shake, and I could not catch my breath. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. Some days it took everything I had just to get out of bed. Sarah and Daniel still checked on me regularly, but other friends drifted away. People are uncomfortable with failure. They do not know what to say. The invitations stopped coming. The texts became less frequent. I understood, but it still hurt. Thomas filed my wrongful termination lawsuit. Stellar Media's legal team responded with overwhelming force. They filed a motion to compel arbitration, claiming I had signed an arbitration agreement when I was hired. I did not remember signing such an agreement, but they produced a document with my electronic signature. They argued that my case should be moved to private arbitration rather than open court. Then they filed a countersuit. They claimed I had violated my non-disclosure agreement and my non-compete clause by speaking to competitors about confidential business information. It was completely fabricated. I had not spoken to anyone about anything confidential. But they filed it anyway, attaching documentation that looked convincing if you did not examine it too closely. Thomas called with bad news. Belle, the legal fees are adding up faster than I anticipated. Their team is burying us in motions and paperwork. Every response costs money. I can continue on contingency, but I need you to understand that this case could take years, and there is no guarantee we will win. Years? I could not survive years of this. Adding to my stress, my mother called with news I had been dreading. Her cancer had returned. She needed treatment, expensive treatment that insurance would only partially cover. For the past 3 years, I had been helping with her medical bills, sending money every month. Now I could barely afford my own rent. My brother called me a week later. Mom told me you cannot help anymore with her bills, he said, his voice tight with anger. I am barely surviving right now. I am working retail and living on credit cards. You brought this on yourself, Belle. You should have just kept your head down and done your job. Now Mom is suffering because of your choices. That is not fair. Life is not fair. Mom needs help, and you are too busy playing victim to provide it. He hung up before I could respond. I sat on my bathroom floor and cried for an hour. 3 months after my firing, I was working an evening shift at the department store when they walked in. Amber, her fiancé Justin, and a group of their friends. They were laughing, carrying shopping bags from expensive stores, clearly enjoying a day of leisure shopping. Amber saw me immediately. Her eyes lit up with malicious glee. Oh my God, Belle. Is that you? I kept my expression neutral, professional. Hello, Amber. Can I help you find something? I just cannot believe you are working here. I mean, after everything. This must be so embarrassing for you. Her friends snickered. Justin looked at me with a smirk that made my skin crawl. Remember when you used to be somebody? Amber continued loud enough for other customers to hear. Remember when you had an actual career? Now look at you, folding sweaters. I am just trying to earn a living, I said quietly. Well, I guess we all end up where we belong eventually. Some of us rise to the top, others end up here. My manager was watching from across the floor, his expression disapproving. I could not make a scene. I needed this job. I needed these 20 hours a week. Is there anything I can help you find? I repeated. Amber laughed and walked away, her entourage following. I heard them laughing as they left the store. That night I could not stop crying. I had hit absolute rock bottom. Later, unable to sleep, I found myself going through old emails on my personal laptop. I was looking for anything that might help my legal case, any documentation I might have missed. I had downloaded some work emails before my access was terminated, just random threads I happened to have open. That is when I saw it. 6 months ago, I had been accidentally copied on an internal email chain from Stellar's finance department. At the time, I had been so busy with my projects that I had barely glanced at it. Now, reading it carefully, I felt my blood run cold. The emails detailed billing practices for several major clients, but the numbers did not match what I knew those projects should cost. I pulled up my old files, cross-referencing project budgets. The clients were being billed for subcontractor work that had never been done, fake invoices, inflated costs, services that were never provided. I went through more emails, piecing it together. This was not an isolated incident. This was systematic. Stellar Media had been defrauding clients for millions of dollars. My hands shook as I called Thomas. It was 1 a.m, but he answered. I found something, I said. Something big. The next morning, I met Thomas at his office. We went through the emails together. He pulled up financial records, client contracts. The more we dug, the worse it looked. Conservative estimates put the fraud at over $5 million across 3 years. This is securities fraud, Thomas said quietly. This is criminal. Belle, this changes everything. This is why they fired you. You must have seen something, asked the wrong question. They needed you gone before you figured this out. What do? We can take this to the Securities and Exchange Commission, to the FBI. This kind of fraud could destroy the company. But Belle, you need to understand something. If they find out you have this information, they will come after you hard. They already are coming after me. This will be different. This is not just about a wrongful termination anymore. This is about people potentially going to prison. Richard, Amber, maybe others. They will do whatever it takes to protect themselves. I looked at the evidence spread across Thomas's desk. This was my leverage. This was my way out. Let's do it, I said. Thomas began preparing a comprehensive package for federal investigators. We scheduled a meeting with the SEC for the following Monday. For the first time in months, I felt hope. I was going to expose them. I was going to make them pay. That Friday night, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My stomach dropped. I pushed it open carefully. My apartment had been ransacked. Drawers pulled open, cushions torn apart, papers scattered everywhere. But nothing valuable was missing. My television was still there. My jewelry box was untouched. My purse was on the counter where I had left it. Only one thing was gone: my laptop. The laptop that contained all the evidence. I checked my backup drives. Gone. The files I had printed out. Gone. They had taken only the fraud evidence and nothing else. I called the police, but without proof of what was stolen, there was little they could do. Someone had broken in and taken my laptop. It happened all the time, they said. I called Thomas, my voice shaking. They knew, I said. They knew what I had and they took it. How could they possibly know? They must be monitoring me somehow, watching me. Thomas, if they broke into my home, what else are they capable of? That night, Thomas called with even worse news. Belle Stellar just filed an emergency motion. They are seeking a restraining order against you. They claim you have been harassing their employees and attempting to illegally access company systems. They are also filing a motion claiming you are mentally unstable and seeking to have you involuntarily committed for psychiatric evaluation. What? That is insane. They are trying to destroy your credibility completely. If they can paint you as mentally ill, nothing you say will matter. No one will believe you. Belle, you need to find somewhere safe to stay. Do not stay at your apartment alone. I called Sarah. She came and picked me up within the hour. I stayed on her couch that night, jumping at every sound. For the first time, I was genuinely afraid. Not just of losing my career or my money. Afraid for my safety. The emergency hearing for the psychiatric evaluation motion was scheduled for the following Thursday. I barely slept in the days leading up to it. Sarah tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in her eyes. This was beyond anything either of us had imagined. The hearing was held in a stark courtroom that smelled like old wood and anxiety. Stellar's legal team arrived with an army of lawyers and a file box full of documentation. Thomas sat beside me, but I could feel the imbalance of power in the room. Stellar's lead attorney, a sharp woman in an expensive suit, presented me as an obsessed former employee who could not accept that she had been fired for cause. She showed the court my social media posts claiming they demonstrated an unhealthy fixation. She presented the restraining order violation claims carefully worded to sound credible, even though they were lies. She painted a picture of someone spiraling out of control. Then Amber took the stand. She had dressed simply conservatively. Her makeup was minimal. She looked like a concerned professional who just wanted to help a troubled person. It was masterful. I feel terrible about what happened with Belle, Amber said, her voice soft and sad. She was a valued employee for many years, but over the past year we noticed changes in her behavior. She became defensive, paranoid. She made accusations about colleagues that were not based in reality. Can you give an example? Stellar's attorney asked. She accused our senior accountant of falsifying records. She accused me of having personal motivations for performance reviews. She seemed to believe there were conspiracies against her when really we were just trying to help her improve. None of this was true. But Amber delivered it perfectly with just the right amount of concern and confusion. When we had to let her go, I hoped she would get the help she needed. Instead, she has become increasingly fixated on revenge. She is posting things online, contacting our clients, making wild claims about fraud and corruption. It is heartbreaking to watch. Amber even managed to cry a little, real tears sliding down her cheeks. I just want Belle to get help. That is all I have ever wanted. The judge looked at me with something close to pity. When it was my turn to testify, I was a mess. I had barely slept. I was running on stress and fear. My hands trembled as I took the stand. Thomas asked me to explain what had happened. I tried to tell my story clearly, methodically, but when I mentioned the fraud evidence, Stellar's attorney objected. Irrelevant and unsubstantiated, Your Honor. Miss Harrison has made numerous claims about supposed financial improprieties, but she has provided no actual evidence. These are the paranoid fantasies we have been describing. The judge sustained the objection. I was not allowed to discuss the fraud. I tried to explain about the break-in, about being monitored, but the more I talked, the worse it sounded. Without the evidence, without proof, I sounded exactly like what they were claiming I was. Paranoid. Delusional. Unstable. Miss Harrison, the judge said, did you or did you not post confidential company information on social media? I posted my performance reviews to prove I was not failing at my job. So you did post company information? Yes, but I redacted everything confidential. But you posted it nonetheless, after being told not to. Yes, but there was no good answer. Every truth I told sounded like a confession. The judge did not order involuntary commitment, small mercy, but he did mandate that I undergo a psychiatric evaluation. He ordered me to attend therapy sessions. He restricted my ability to contact current or former Stellar employees. It was a partial victory for Stellar. My credibility was now officially in question. After the hearing, I had a breakdown in the parking garage. Sarah found me sitting on the concrete floor between two cars, sobbing so hard I could not breathe. She got me into her car and held me while I fell apart. I cannot do this anymore, I whispered. I cannot keep fighting. They are going to win. Do not say that. Please, Belle. We will find a way. But I could not see how. 7 months ago, I was a successful director with a career I loved. Now I was broke, unemployed, being painted as mentally ill and facing legal destruction. I had thought about ending everything. The thought scared me, but it also felt like the only escape. Sarah made me promise not to hurt myself. I promised, but I was not sure I could keep that promise. 2 days later, Daniel called. Belle, I did something I should not have done. What do you mean? I have been digging into Stellar's systems. I still have some old access credentials they never deactivated. I found something huge in old backup files. Original emails from their billing department showing the fraud. Communication showing Richard personally ordered your termination, and evidence that Amber knew about the fraud and helped cover it up. My heart leaped. Daniel, that is incredible. Can you send it to me? There is a problem. I had to hack into archived systems to get this. The evidence might not be admissible in court. And Belle, if Stellar finds out I took this, I could face criminal charges, computer fraud, unauthorized access. This could ruin my life. I felt torn in half. This evidence could save me, but it would destroy Daniel. Delete it, I said. Delete everything, and forget you ever saw it. Belle, no. This could prove everything. Daniel, I will not let you go to prison for me. Delete it, please. I will find another way. He argued, but eventually he agreed. After I hung up, I felt the last bit of hope drain out of me. Sarah must have been more worried about me than she let on, because the next day she did something I never would have asked her to do. She went to Richard himself. She requested a private meeting, telling his assistant she had information about employee concerns. Richard, always careful about his image, agreed to meet with her. Sarah walked into Richard's office with her phone in her pocket, recording everything. Thank you for meeting with me, Sarah said. Of course. What can I do for you? Sarah took a breath and went for it. I know about the billing fraud. I know what you have been doing to clients. Richard's expression did not change. That is a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I have enough, and I know what you did to Belle. I know you fabricated evidence against her because she knew too much. Richard sat back in his chair studying Sarah. Then he smiled. Sarah, you are a smart woman, so let me be frank with you. Belle made a mistake. She should have taken the severance and moved on. Instead, she chose to fight. That was foolish. So you admit you fabricated evidence. I admit nothing. But I am a practical man. Let me make you an offer. Vice President of Marketing. $200,000 salary plus bonuses, and $250,000 in cash right now. In exchange, you testify that Belle was unstable, difficult to work with. You confirm our version of events. Sarah pretended to consider it. Why should I believe you would pay me? Because you are useful to me, and Belle is not. Belle is finished. She has no evidence, no credibility, no future in this industry. You, on the other hand, could have a very bright future. What if I say no? Richard's smile faded. Then you will end up just like Belle. Fired, blacklisted, destroyed. I have been doing this for 30 years, Sarah. I know how to protect my interests. You broke into her apartment. I have no idea what you were talking about. But if I did know anything about it, I would say that Belle should be more careful about what she keeps in her home, and you should be more careful about the accusations you make. Sarah had what she needed. She stood to leave. But as she reached the door, Richard's head of security appeared. A large man named Gary, who Sarah had seen around the office but never spoken to. One moment, Gary said. He held out his hand. Your phone, please. Sarah's stomach dropped. Excuse me. We scan for recording devices. Your phone has been recording this entire conversation. I will need to confiscate it. Richard stood up, his demeanor completely different now. Cold, dangerous. You made a serious mistake, Sarah. Give Gary your phone. You are fired effective immediately. And if you say one word about this conversation to anyone, I will bury you. I will destroy you even worse than I destroyed Belle. Do you understand me? Sarah's hands shook as she handed over her phone. Gary escorted her out of the building. Security packed up her desk while she watched. They checked her bag, took her badge, and escorted her to the parking garage. She called me from her car, crying. Belle, I am so sorry. I thought I could help. I thought I could get evidence. But they took it. They took everything. And now I am fired, too. I lost my job because of you, and I am so sorry. No, I said, my own voice breaking. I am sorry. This is my fault. You were just trying to help me, and now you have lost everything. Sarah, I am so sorry. We both cried. Sarah had been my best friend through this nightmare. Now she was unemployed because of me. Stellar had won again. They always won. That night I sat in Sarah's apartment while she was in the shower staring at nothing. We were both ruined, both blacklisted, both facing financial destruction. Amber and Richard had won completely. I thought about giving up, just signing whatever settlement they offered, taking whatever money they would give me, and disappearing. Moving to another state, starting over in a different field, pretending none of this had ever happened. But the thought of them winning, of them getting away with fraud and abuse and destroying lives, made me physically sick. There had to be a way. There had to be something I was missing. I just could not see it yet. I stopped sleeping. Not just sleeping poorly, but not sleeping at all. I would lie on Sarah's couch, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every detail of the past 7 months, trying to find something, anything I had missed. Dark circles appeared under my eyes. My hands developed a constant tremor. I stopped eating regularly. Sarah would make food and I would forget to eat it. The mandatory psychiatric evaluation was scheduled for the following Wednesday. I was terrified, not because I thought I was mentally ill, but because I knew I looked like I was. The stress had ravaged me physically. I looked like someone falling apart. How could any evaluator see past that to understand what was really happening? The hearing to determine the evaluation's scope was held in the same courthouse where everything else had happened. I sat beside Thomas, wearing one of my old work outfits that now hung loose on my shrinking frame. Stellar's legal team presented their case efficiently. They showed the court my declining appearance in photographs taken at various court dates. They presented statements from the department store where I had worked, noting that I had called in sick multiple times and seemed anxious and distracted. They made me sound like someone in crisis. Then Amber testified again. She wore a soft blue sweater and spoke in that same concerned tone. She told the court she was worried about me. She said she had seen me outside Stellar's building twice in the past month, though she had not. She said I had tried to contact multiple current employees despite the restraining order. Also not true, but she delivered it all with such apparent sincerity. "I just want Belle to be okay," Amber said, dabbing at her eyes. "I hope she gets the help she needs. This has been so hard to watch." When I took the stand, I tried to stay calm. Thomas had coached me. Just answer the questions. Do not get emotional. Stick to facts. But when I tried to explain what had really happened, my voice shook. When I mentioned the fraud, Stellar's attorney objected and the judge sustained it. When I tried to explain about the break-in, about being monitored, about Sarah's recording being confiscated, I could hear how it sounded. Paranoid. Delusional. The judge looked at me with what seemed like pity mixed with concern. "Miss Harrison, I can see you are under significant stress. The court finds there is sufficient cause to mandate a full psychological evaluation. You will be evaluated by a court-appointed psychologist within 30 days. You are ordered to attend weekly therapy sessions beginning immediately. You are to have no contact with any current Stellar Media employees or contractors. Violation of this order will result in contempt charges." It was not involuntary commitment, but it might as well have been. My mental state was now officially in question. Anything I said would be filtered through that lens. After the hearing, I could not make it to the car. I sat on a bench outside the courthouse and could not move. My chest felt tight. I could not catch my breath. The panic attack hit hard and fast. Sarah found me there 20 minutes later. I do not remember her getting me to the car. I do not remember the drive back to her apartment. I came back to awareness sitting on her bathroom floor. Sarah sitting next to me, holding my hand. "I thought about killing myself," I whispered. "Last night, I thought about how I would do it." Sarah's grip on my hand tightened. "Belle, please do not say that. I do not want to die. But I do not know how to keep living like this. They are destroying me piece by piece, and I cannot stop them. Promise me you will not hurt yourself. Promise me." I promised because she needed me to promise. But the truth was, I did not know if I could keep fighting much longer. Daniel called the next morning. His voice was excited but strained. "Belle, I did something. I know you told me to delete the evidence I found, but I could not. I backed it up before I deleted the local copies, and I kept digging. I found more." "Daniel, no. You are going to get yourself in trouble. It is too late to worry about that now. Listen to me. I found original emails from Stellar's billing department showing systematic fraud. I found internal communications showing Richard personally ordered your termination. I found proof that Amber knew about the fraud and helped cover it up. And I found something else." "What?" "Communication between Richard and a private investigation firm. Belle, they have been surveilling you, following you, monitoring your communications. That is how they knew about the evidence you had. That is how they knew when to break into your apartment." My blood ran cold. "Are you saying they have been watching me this whole time?" "Yes, and there is more. The investigator they hired also did work related to Jessica's accident." "Jessica? Who is Jessica?" "Jessica Martinez. She is a senior accountant at Stellar. She has been processing the fraudulent invoices for years. According to these emails, she told Richard she wanted out. She threatened to go to authorities. 3 days later, her car was in an accident. Her brake lines were cut. I felt sick. They tried to kill someone. The emails do not explicitly say that, but the timeline is suspicious. And the private investigator they hired specializes in, quote, solving problems discreetly. Daniel, this is so dangerous. If they find out you have this..." "I know. That is why I am not keeping it. I made multiple encrypted backups, and I am sending one to you. I am also reaching out to Jessica directly. If she is willing to testify, her testimony combined with this evidence could bring Richard and Amber down. But the evidence might not be admissible. You obtained it illegally. Whistleblower protections, Belle. If I am exposing a crime, there are protections. I talked to a lawyer. It is risky, but it is possible. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. What do you need me to do? Nothing yet. Let me reach out to Jessica. If she is willing to talk, I will let you know. 3 days later, Daniel called back. Jessica is in. She has been keeping her own copies of documents for years as insurance. She is ready to come forward. But Belle, we need someone with authority who will listen. Someone who can actually do something about this. I might know someone, I said. I had received a LinkedIn message 2 weeks earlier from a woman named Patricia Blackwell. She was on Stellar's board of directors. She had said she had been following my case and had concerns about what she was hearing. At the time, I had assumed it was some kind of trap and had ignored it. Now I reconsidered. I messaged Patricia back. She responded within an hour. We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop far from downtown. Patricia was in her early 60s, well-dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She got straight to the point. I have been on Stellar's board for 5 years. Richard controls information very tightly. He presents only what he wants us to see. But I have been noticing discrepancies in financial reports for over a year. Numbers that do not quite add up. Explanations that feel rehearsed. I have tried to ask questions, but Richard always has an answer. What made you reach out to me? I asked. Your case bothered me from the beginning. The public firing, the speed of it, the viciousness of it. It did not fit Richard's usual style. He is normally much more careful. It made me think there was something more going on. Then I started hearing rumors through industry contacts, people saying Richard was blacklisting you. That level of vindictiveness suggested you knew something he did not want known. I studied her carefully. Why should I trust you? You are on his board. Because I am one of only 2 truly independent board members. The others are either old friends of Richard, financially tied to his other ventures, or too intimidated to question him. I have no ties to Richard except my board seat, and I take my fiduciary duty seriously. If Richard is committing fraud, I want him gone. I made a decision. I told her everything. About the fraudulent billing, about Jessica, about Daniel's evidence, about the surveillance and the break-in. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. If you can provide me with solid evidence, I can call an emergency board meeting. With proof of fraud and criminal activity, I can force the board to act. We can remove Richard as CEO. We can fire Amber. We can turn everything over to authorities. But all my evidence was stolen. Then we need to get new evidence. Can your friend Daniel provide what he found? Yes, but it was obtained through hacking. It might not be admissible. Let me worry about that. My concern is the board, not a courtroom. If I can show the board that Richard is a criminal, they will act. They have to. The liability exposure would be enormous. Over the next week, a plan came together. Daniel provided his evidence. Jessica provided years of documentation of fraudulent invoices. Patricia worked behind the scenes to prepare for an emergency board meeting. Thomas helped structure everything legally. Sarah provided her testimony about Richard's confession even without the recording. We worked in secret, communicating through encrypted apps, meeting in random locations. Every day I expected Richard to find out somehow to shut us down, but the days passed and nothing happened. Patricia scheduled the emergency board meeting for 2 weeks away. She told the board there were urgent financial concerns that required immediate attention. Richard agreed to the meeting, likely thinking he could control whatever issues Patricia raised. We prepared presentation materials. We organized evidence. We practiced what each person would say. Thomas advised us on legal strategy. We even reached out to the SEC and FBI, inviting representatives to attend the board meeting. We contacted 3 of Stellar's major clients who we believed had been defrauded. We provided them with preliminary evidence and invited them to attend. They agreed, wanting answers about their billing. Everything was set. If we succeeded, Richard and Amber would be finished. If we failed, we would all be destroyed. The night before the board meeting, I could not sleep again. This time it was not anxiety. It was anticipation. This was my chance. My one shot to get my life back and make them pay for what they had done. Sarah stayed up with me. We sat on her couch drinking tea, not talking much, just being together. No matter what happens tomorrow, Sarah said, I am proud of you. You did not give up, even when they tried to break you. I almost did give up. So many times. But you did not. That is what matters. At 3 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Daniel. His voice was frantic. Belle, it is Jessica. She has been in a car accident. She is in the hospital. Someone cut her brake lines. No. 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 Is she okay? She is unconscious but stable. But Belle, this was not an accident. They tried to kill her. Richard found out about our plan. He knows. I called Patricia immediately. She answered on the first ring. I heard about Jessica. Belle, Richard called me an hour ago. He has moved the board meeting up. It is now at 10 this morning instead of this afternoon. He is trying to get ahead of us. He knows something is happening, and he is trying to control it. We are missing our key witness, I said. Jessica is in the hospital. She cannot testify. Do we have her documents? Yes. Then we go forward anyway. We do not have a choice. If we back down now, Richard will crush all of us. I looked at the clock. 6 hours until the meeting. 6 hours to get ready. 6 hours to decide whether to walk into Stellar headquarters, the place where I had been humiliated and destroyed, and try to take down the people who ruined my life. Thomas called. Belle, you do not have to do this. If this goes wrong, Richard will have you arrested on the spot. His lawyers will be there. Security will be there. You could be walking into a trap. I have to, I said. I have come too far to stop now. Sarah refused to stay behind. Daniel insisted on coming. Patricia said she would meet us there. Thomas would be present as legal counsel. At 9:30 we drove to Stellar's headquarters. I had not been inside this building since the day I was fired. Walking through those doors felt surreal. Richard and Amber were already in the boardroom. Richard looked calm, confident. Amber saw me, and her expression turned cold and hard. Stellar's legal team was there, 3 lawyers in expensive suits. Security guards stood by the doors. The board members looked confused and uncomfortable. They did not know what was happening, or why they had been called in on short notice. Patricia stood at the head of the conference table. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. We are here because I have uncovered information about serious financial and legal issues within this company. Issues that require immediate board action. Richard interrupted smoothly. Patricia, before you continue, I need to address the presence of Belle Harrison. She is a former employee who was terminated for cause and who is currently prohibited by court order from contacting Stellar employees. Her presence here violates that order. I am calling security to remove her. Belle is here at my invitation as a witness to matters of fiduciary importance to this board, Patricia said firmly. She is not violating any order. Please sit down, Richard. Richard remained standing, but he did not call security. Patricia nodded to Thomas, who began the presentation. For the next 90 minutes, we laid it all out. Financial records showing systematic fraud, emails proving Richard and Amber's involvement, client testimonies about overbilling, evidence of fabricated accusations against me, documentation of the surveillance and the break-in. 3 major clients stood up and confirmed they had found discrepancies in their billing. They were considering legal action. Belle and Sarah testified about what had happened. Daniel presented his technical evidence. We showed the pattern of employees being fired after questioning billing practices. Richard tried to defend himself. He claimed the evidence was fabricated. He said I was a disgruntled former employee with a vendetta. He tried to attack our credibility. But then Daniel played his final card. A recorded phone call between Richard and his head of security discussing the break-in to my apartment, discussing making sure I could not cause problems, discussing Jessica's accident. The recording was damning. Richard's lawyer immediately told him to stop talking, but it was too late. The board members had heard enough. Patricia called for a vote. All in favor of removing Richard Harrison as CEO and terminating Amber Harrison's employment effective immediately. One by one, hands went up. Even Richard's old friends, faced with evidence of fraud and potential criminal liability, voted against him. It was unanimous. Richard's face went red. He stood up. "This is illegal. I will sue all of you. I built this company. You cannot do this." "We just did," Patricia said calmly. "Security will escort you from the building. You are suspended from all company involvement pending investigation. The board will be turning all evidence over to the SEC and FBI for criminal investigation." Amber looked at her father, then looked at the board. "I did not know about the fraud," she said quickly. "I was just following my father's orders. He told me Belle had to be fired. He told me what to do. I did not know why." Richard turned to his daughter, betrayal written on his face. "Amber, I am not going to prison for you," Amber said. "This was all you." The board escorted both of them out. Security took their badges, their keys, their access cards. Patricia turned to me. "Belle, on behalf of this board, I want to formally apologize. You were wrongfully terminated and defamed. The board would like to offer you a full settlement, including back pay, damages for emotional distress, and coverage of all legal fees. We would also like to offer you a position." I could barely process what she was saying. "A position. Executive chairman of the board. We need someone with integrity to help rebuild this company, someone the employees trust, someone who knows the business but is not part of the corruption. You are that person." I looked around the room. At Sarah, who was crying. At Daniel, who was grinning. At Thomas, who nodded encouragingly. "I accept," I said. The next few weeks were a blur. The story broke in the business news immediately. Richard and Amber faced criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The SEC opened a full investigation. The FBI raided Stellar's headquarters, seizing documents and computers. I moved into the CEO's office, the same office where Richard had sat for 20 years. It felt strange at first, almost surreal. 7 months ago, I had been humiliated in front of the entire company. Now I was running it. My first act was to address the company. I called an all-hands meeting, this time in person rather than virtual. 400 employees gathered in the auditorium. Many of them had watched my firing on that video call. Now they watched as I stood at the podium. 7 months ago, I stood in front of you and was publicly fired. Many of you witnessed that. Some of you probably wondered if I deserved it. Some of you probably thought I must have done something wrong. I want you to know that I understand those thoughts. We have been trained to trust leadership, to assume there are reasons for decisions we do not understand. I paused, looking out at all those faces. But sometimes leadership is wrong. Sometimes people in power abuse that power. Sometimes corruption exists even in places we thought were clean. What happened to me happened because I accidentally discovered fraud. I was fired not because I failed, but because I was getting too close to the truth. Murmurs went through the crowd. Richard Harrison and Amber Harrison have been removed from this company. They will face criminal prosecution, but more importantly, we are going to rebuild. We are going to create a culture where people can speak up without fear, where integrity matters more than politics, where doing the right thing is rewarded, not punished. The applause started slowly, then built. People stood up. Some were crying. A few came up to me afterward and apologized for believing the lies. Sarah was reinstated as vice president of marketing at triple her previous salary. Daniel was offered a director position in our technology division. Jessica recovered from her injuries and returned to work, where she was promoted to chief financial officer. She would help clean up the mess Richard had made and rebuild trust with clients. The legal cases moved forward. Richard's trial was set for the following year. He faced up to 20 years in prison. Amber, in exchange for testifying against her father, received a lighter sentence recommendation of 3 to 5 years. Their relationship was destroyed. During one court appearance, Richard refused to even look at his daughter. All charges against me were dropped. The restraining order was lifted. The psychological evaluation was canceled. My record was cleared completely. The viral video of my firing was taken down from most platforms, and news stories now contextualized it with the truth about what really happened. I became a symbol of something. Journalists wanted to interview me. People on social media called me a hero. Other employees who had experienced workplace injustice reached out sharing their stories. I tried to help where I could, connecting people with resources and lawyers. My mother's cancer treatment became affordable again. My new salary allowed me to help with her medical bills. Her treatment was going well. Doctors were optimistic. My brother called to apologize for what he had said months ago. Our relationship was rocky, but we were working on it. My own mental health began to improve. The panic attacks became less frequent. The depression lifted slowly like fog burning off in sunlight. I started therapy with a counselor. I chose myself, not one court mandated. We worked through the trauma of what I had experienced. Sarah and I grew closer through the whole ordeal. She knew what I had gone through because she had been there for all of it. Our friendship deepened in a way that only happens when people survive something hard together. At Stellar, I implemented sweeping changes. I created a whistleblower protection program. I brought in an independent ethics committee. I instituted transparent financial practices and third-party audits. I met with every client personally to apologize for what had happened and ensure they received full restitution for any overbilling. Some clients left despite my efforts. I did not blame them, but most stayed, appreciating the transparency and accountability. We actually gained new clients, companies that wanted to work with a firm that had chosen integrity over profit. 6 months after becoming executive chairman, I stood in my office looking out at the Chicago skyline. My phone buzzed with an email from a young employee named Emma. She thanked me for creating a culture where she felt safe speaking up about a concern. She had noticed a minor billing error and had reported it immediately. I had praised her publicly and made sure the error was corrected. That email meant more to me than any business success. It meant we were actually changing things. I thought about the journey from that horrible morning when I was fired to this moment. I thought about every dark night when I had wanted to give up. I thought about the fear, the humiliation, the desperate poverty, the panic attacks, the moments when I had seriously considered whether living was worth it. I would not wish that experience on anyone, but I also knew it had changed me in fundamental ways. I was stronger now. I knew what I was capable of surviving. I knew what I was willing to fight for. I was not the same person who had been fired 7 months ago. That woman had been successful and confident, but she had never really been tested. She had never had to fight for anything. She had never had to decide how much she was willing to sacrifice for what was right. This version of me, the one standing in this office looking out at the city, she knew things. She knew that justice was possible but not guaranteed. She knew that standing up for the truth came at a cost. She knew that sometimes you had to lose everything to find out what really mattered. She also knew that she was not alone. Sarah Daniel, Jessica Patricia Thomas, they had all risked something to help me. They had all chosen integrity over safety. Without them, I would have been destroyed. A soft knock on my door pulled me from my thoughts. Sarah poked her head in. "We are still on for dinner tonight." "Absolutely. Where do you want to go?" "Somewhere expensive. I feel like celebrating." "What are we celebrating?" Sarah grinned. "Just being alive, being free, being on the right side of this." I smiled back. "I can celebrate that." A year after my firing, Stellar Media Group was thriving. Our revenue had actually increased. Client satisfaction was at an all-time high. Employee morale had transformed completely. We had become known in the industry as a company that valued ethics and integrity, and that reputation was attracting top talent. Richard's trial had concluded. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. His appeals were denied. Amber served 3 years and was released with probation. She left Chicago, and I never heard from her again. I hoped she found a way to rebuild her life, but I did not follow her story. The civil settlements with clients cost the company millions, but we paid every penny. We rebuilt trust through actions, not words. Our client retention rate after the scandal was 92%, far higher than anyone had predicted. I established the Belle Workplace Justice Fund, a nonprofit that provided legal support to employees facing wrongful termination or workplace retaliation. Sarah ran it alongside her VP duties. We helped dozens of people fight back against unjust firings and won most of those cases. My mother went into full remission. She joked that I had given her something to live for by giving her such a dramatic story to tell her friends. My relationship with my family healed. We had dinner together once a month, and my mother never failed to tell me how proud she was. Thomas's law firm gained national recognition for taking on my case. He started specializing in employment law and whistleblower protection. We remained friends and grabbed lunch every few weeks. Jessica became one of the most respected CFOs in Chicago. She spoke openly about her experience and advocated for financial transparency in corporate America. The attempt on her life had left her shaken but determined. She often said that surviving that attack gave her clarity about what mattered. Daniel continued working in our technology division and became a crucial part of our cybersecurity infrastructure. He never hacked into anything again, but his skills were put to legitimate use protecting our systems and our clients' data. Patricia remained on the board and became a mentor to me. She taught me how to navigate board politics, how to balance stakeholder interests, and how to lead with both strength and compassion. She often said that bringing me in as executive chairman was the best decision the board ever made. As for me, I changed in ways both visible and invisible. I wore my hair differently now, more confident and less concerned with appearing perfect. I spoke my mind more directly. I trusted my instincts. I no longer felt the need to prove myself to anyone. But the biggest change was internal. I had learned that integrity was not just a nice idea. It was a choice you made every day, especially when that choice was hard. I had learned that standing up for what was right required courage, but that courage could be found even in your darkest moments. I had learned that you could lose everything and still rebuild. I also learned that vengeance and justice were not the same thing. Vengeance would have been satisfied with Richard and Amber suffering. Justice required rebuilding, healing, and making sure this could not happen to others. Justice was forward-looking. It created something better from the ashes of something broken. On the anniversary of my firing, I stood in front of the company again. This time, I brought a surprise. I played the original video of my firing unedited. I let everyone watch me present my excellent quarterly results. I let them watch Amber interrupt and fire me. I let them see the whole thing. When it ended, I spoke. 1 year ago this happened. I want you to watch it, because I want you to remember that injustice can happen anywhere to anyone. I want you to remember what it looks like. And I want you to remember that it does not have to be the end of the story. I paused. What happened to me was wrong, but what came after was a choice. I could have given up. I could have walked away. I could have taken a settlement and stayed quiet. Many people do, and I do not judge them for it. Sometimes survival requires compromise. I looked around the room, but I chose to fight. Not because I was brave. I was terrified most of the time. Not because I was strong. I broke down more times than I can count. I chose to fight because I could not live with myself if I did not try. And I want you to know that if you ever face injustice, if you ever see something wrong, you have a choice too. And whatever you choose, this company will support you. The room erupted in applause, but I held up my hand. One more thing. I am establishing a new company policy. Any employee who reports fraud, harassment, discrimination, or other ethical violations will be protected. Not just legally, but practically. They will not lose their jobs. They will not face retaliation. They will be supported. This is my promise to you, and I am putting it in writing. The applause was even louder this time. After the meeting, I went back to my office. I sat in the chair that used to be Richard's and thought about everything that had brought me here. The pain, the fear, the humiliation, the desperation, but also the courage, the friendship, the resilience, the victory. If I could go back and prevent all of it from happening, would I? Part of me said yes immediately. The suffering had been real and terrible, but another part of me knew that I would not be who I was now if I had not gone through it. I would not have discovered my own strength. I would not have learned what really mattered. Sometimes, you have to be broken before you can be rebuilt into something stronger. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. Dinner at 7. Wear something nice. We are celebrating life. I smiled. Yes, we were. I had been fired live in front of 400 people. I had been humiliated, defamed, blacklisted, and nearly destroyed. I had lost my job, my savings, my reputation, and almost my life. And now, I was executive chairman of the company that had tried to destroy me. I was leading with integrity. I was making a difference. I was helping others avoid what I had gone through. The journey from that moment of public firing to this moment of quiet triumph had been the hardest thing I had ever done. But it had taught me something crucial. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by what you do next. Sometimes the darkest moments create the brightest transformations. Sometimes losing everything helps you understand what really matters. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up giving you the motivation to become something greater than you ever imagined. I looked out at the Chicago skyline one more time. The sun was setting, painting the buildings in gold and orange light. It was beautiful. Life was beautiful. Even after everything, especially after everything life was worth fighting for. I had survived. I had fought back. I had won. And I would spend the rest of my career making sure others could do the same. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced workplace injustice? Or witnessed someone being treated unfairly at work? How did you handle it? Or what would you do if you found yourself in a similar situation? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and reminds all of us that we are not alone in facing workplace challenges. Subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, justice, and triumph over adversity. And please share this video with anyone who might need to hear that standing up for what is right is always worth it, even when it is hard. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that whatever challenges you are facing, you find the courage to keep fighting. You are stronger than you know. You deserve justice. And you are never as alone as you might feel. Take care of yourselves. Stand up for what is right, and remember that your darkest moment might just be the beginning of your greatest transformation.